fear. It fucking runs us, all the way from deep down in our DNA toesies up to our smelling nosies, sniffing and interpreting real-time events that are informed by past experiences and trauma. We do all that we can to avoid fear. Avoidance is an old familiar blanket we throw over the monster that is fear. But fear is still under that blanket, squirming and howling, and it's fucking pissed. But we just kind of pretend it's not there. The fear monster with a blanket of avoidance over it is called worry. If we ruminate on our past and dwell in those memories, we're likely to become depressed. If we project our imagination into the future to design elaborate and terrible possible outcomes for ourselves, then we're anxious. Anxiety is what happens when the fear monster starts clawing through the avoidance blanket. A tooth here, a nail there. A panic attack is when it gets out and tries to eat your fucking face. But fear doesn't actually want to eat your fucking face. It wants to keep you from dying. That's all. Holding it under an avoidance blanket just riles it up. Through millions of years of DNA trying shit, then fucking it up and trying again ad nauseum, and due to clever Mother Nature making us horny little fucks, we have made it through the ages to the state we are now in. Meat tubes with holes at each end, grabby and walky appendages, and tufts of hair in weird places. But mutations and lots of fucking weren't really enough to get us to where we are. Fear is instilled in us so that we don't do dumb shit long enough to fuck, so that DNA can keep it their little humanity project. I mean, it's either us or the cockroaches, so I say let them have their way with us, because, they basically fucking are us. Things like jump scares can bring fear. A dangerous situation, real or perceived, causes it. Something wrong with our body, some imagined failure in a future that will never arrive. A memory of trauma, an undesirable outcome or reaction from somebody. Fear of getting in trouble or letting someone down. I could go on, but let's dig into the source, shall we? Fine, I'll stop doing that. Behind all the little fear is the big fear, death. But behind death is the ultimate fear, the fear of annihilation. There's evidence all around us that death is imminent. In the United States, though, generally speaking, death is hushed and hidden, sanitized, and obscured. But the point is, even here, we cannot avoid the knowledge of impending death. The terror of annihilation is so great that we absolutely feel compelled to find a way out of it, or around it, a loophole even, because more than anything else, we want to be a thing and exist. If this weren't true, you and I wouldn't even be here right now. Back in the day, shit was hard, and no doubt, without the compulsion to exist and fear of death cocktailing us, our ancestors would have said, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." We throw a blanket over fear, but we cover the terror of annihilation up with a big-ass Band-Aid. We can't bear to expose the open wound of annihilation to the air of our awareness, so on goes a Band-Aid of belief. With belief, particularly in a religion or spiritual system, we can then accept that, yes, my body will one day die, but I'm cool with that because I have a soul that will carry my me-ness on. You see, that's how important being a me is. It's more important than even having a fucking body. Now, please listen carefully here. I am not saying that there is or is not a soul or afterlife, or a cloudy heaven or a fiery hell or a virgin orgy or a Viking battlefield or reincarnation or not. I'm not interested in a debate. That's not what this is about. So those belief systems are off the table for this discussion and subsequent exercise because they're irrelevant to the rest of this. Although, is there whiskey in Valhalla? And, that orgy thing sounds kind of cool, but knock it off, it's irrelevant, says I. A belief is a thing we know may not be so, but we decide it's true just fucking cause it serves us to do so. It covers our wound, it makes us comfortable. But behind every belief is doubt. Belief and doubt are two sides of a coin. One is night, one is day. They always exist in tandem. If you do not see the flip side of belief, then I might suggest that terror itself is the fabric of your faith and will not allow you to flip that coin. But let's talk about an exercise you can do. It's so simple yet so difficult. I don't actually know if you should do it. If you don't think you should, then don't. I don't know if you can do it. As I've said, it's fucking hard. The exercise is a serious consideration that annihilation awaits us all. If you can consider it, then you can contemplate it, and then move towards making peace with the possibility of annihilation. It's not a new fucking belief, it's accepting the possibility. That's it. So why fucking do this? Well, because for an organism that really wants to be a thing, I'm talking about you, and wants to continue its beingness, annihilation is the worst case scenario. So if you can make peace with that as a possibility, then not only are you no longer fucking with towels or band-aids, you are riding upon the great scaled back of fear itself like it's your fucking steed, and your life will transform. But again, I'm not sure if you should do this or not. It might fuck you up a little bit. This is a thing that can happen naturally with ego death because In a way, ego death isn't really the thing that we think it is. It's more like the identification between your pristine wakeful mind and egoic thought forms disintegrate. But nature is a crafty little fucker, and ego is like a lizard tail. The fucking thing grows back, but when it does, by virtue of an individual experiencing the one thing true, lies no longer suffice. When you've discovered who and what you've always been, then the stories you've been told and used to tell yourself in the form of belief are no longer feasible or comforting. On one hand, you're aware of the truth, and on the other, your regrowing ego has to face the possibility of annihilation without any mental or religious or belief-dependent comforts. Having somebody close to you die will often trigger deep contemplation about death. We want to know our loved one has moved on, but where the fuck are they and why can't I perceive them? We could go either way from this experience, deeper into belief or a more open exploration. Just a reminder, if you're getting triggered, I'm not actually saying that annihilation is or isn't what happens. This is an exercise, and on the other side of it lies potential peace. I mean, what if it all does just go black? If you have a happy life with lots of attachments, that's going to seem pretty fucking bleak. However, if you've suffered, deeply suffered to the point where the pain and misery was so much you didn't want to exist for a time, then hidden in that suffering is a gift. The possibility of non-existence may seem like a relief. I'm not saying walk around wishing for it, don't be a dumbass. I'm saying a person who has unfucked and pulled themselves out of it can both appreciate life more fully than most, but at the same time can be relaxed about whatever the fuck's next, because enjoying life when it's enjoyable or entering the void, which is an end to suffering, both sound pretty sweet. There's a practice where monks are sent to a graveyard for so many days to contemplate death. Doing so puts it in their face as an inevitability so it can be dealt with head on. It can free you to come to sort of a peace about it, one that's not reliant only upon belief, because belief is a nervous sort of comfort. It's a band-aid or blanket, and we already know that monsters get pissed under a blanket and wounds fester if ignored, but you can still kind of smell it under a hastily applied and impure band-aid of belief. I could say more, and perhaps I shouldn't have said so much, but fuck it. Faith and belief is a very interesting phenomenon. It's a sort of hopeful stubbornness if allowed to fully integrate. Unless a person can move outside that sphere, they may not even be able to admit other possibilities exist, even to themselves. Belief deals with an arbitrary and comforting absolute that on some level you know might be bullshit, because you call it belief, not knowing, hello, but out comes that blanket. What I'm talking about is being a more whole and honest human who deals in possibilities. With possibilities, you can have your cake and a stripper can pop out of it and you can eat it. Never mind. Getting off track. I can tell you this. Behind your thoughts, there's something closer than close. Imagine yourself a bubble. A bubble is just a spherical, soapy sheen filled with air. A bubble floating is a temporarily sequestered bit of atmosphere. There is zero difference between the atmosphere within and without the bubble. The only reason you can identify this bit of inner air is because of the soap sheen. The soap really wants to be a fucking thing. The air inside, though, has always been and will always be atmosphere. Deep down, the bubble of ego knows what it is, and it's terrified of the day it pops. But once it does, where's the bubble? How do you find the bubble air versus the entirety of the atmosphere? Put that shit in your brain pipe and smoke it, and then forget about it. Don't make that into a fucking belief too, for fuck's sake. Only the bubble skin knows fear, so maybe, I don't know, lighten the fuck up, my dear. Perhaps you are a mysterious collaboration, providing a service to your actual self, a soapy sheen that allows a wakeful emptiness to go for a ride and pretend it's a thing for a minute. Maybe you're not supposed to know what the fuck is up. It ruins the suspense and excitement. So, could be it's better to enjoy your life just as it is and leave the popping to the bubble. They have to go together, you see. Soap, the air that expands a bubble from the inside, and an atmosphere within which to float. So, why get so fucking caught up in the smallest part and the only temporary bit of us that there really is, the bubble skin? Alrighty, well, you have a nice day, or a nice existential crisis, whatever the fuck. Pop goes the wee soul. Toodaloo.